Hi, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, your lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
And we're going to talk about guilt.
Oh, yes, mom guilt.
Mom guilt. And now I have guilt over that. So, all right. So we're going to we've got the review of the week, and then we're going to talk about mom guilt.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we're going to do it.
Yep.
That is going to be our thing. All right. So...
That's our thing.
Yeah, that's our thing. So the review of the week comes from Smims, 1980.
Hi, Smims.
And we'll have to see if you remember this, because this was about you a little bit. This podcast is so real. I felt like I was having coffee with my mom friends, right down to the toddler trying to nurse while chewing gum. Do you remember that? When Exley came in and he was trying to nurse while you were podcasting, but he had gum in his mouth?
Oh, God. Yeah.
I remember that.
That's so cute.
So thank you, Smims. I'm glad that
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that made you chuckle.
Yes, my kids are really, really into keeping this podcast real.
Yeah. It's perfect. That's the way we like it.
Right.
Every once in a while, we talk about this, my husband does our production piece, and every once in a while he'll be like, do you want me to take all that out or just leave it in? I'm like, just leave it in. Because he'll be like, sometimes I have to tell him to take stuff out because we're swearing or something. So
yeah, oh my God. Yeah. He said, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but he texted me one day and he was like, I feel like doing a whole entire episode on just outtakes.
Yeah, she told me.
Cursing outtakes of you two. And I was like, you mean me? Because I think that's just me. He's like, I got to cut like 8 minutes out of this one because Abby was on a rampage. It
was great.
I'm like, sorry.
He was cracking up though. But it's funny. But
well, this is a nice segue into our topic of mom guilt.
Yeah.
What do I feel every time after losing my SHIT? Guilt.
But it's not, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I don't know if it's like this for other people, because maybe I've got the Catholic guilt on top of the mom guilt.
I was just going to say
and it just duplicates the guilt, but you feel guilty, and then you feel guilty about what is causing that other guilt. Like, for example, I'm thinking about that time, that freak out that you had, and you felt guilty because you lost it with your kids, but then you felt guilty because we had to stop recording at the same time.
Oh my God, I was feeling guilty to them, and then I was feeling guilty to Diane, and then I was feeling guilty to Tom, and then right.
Yeah,
and it's like it was a spiral, downward spiral, and then it was just creating more anger in me and more frustration. It was not at all. It was just making me freak out more. Thinking about all of these people that are affected by this, and then I was freaking out even more, and then I was feeling guilty even more.
It's a cycle.
It's a crazy downward spiral, yes.
And I don't know if it, I don't know if it really starts setting, I only have really recognized it a lot since I've been a mom. I had that little bit of, Catholic guilt or whatever since I was born. But if, our own mothers,
since I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, and you're brought up with I say I'm Catholic very loosely because I'm from a Catholic family, but my parents became adults and very much turned their back on, practicing Catholicism. And so I didn't grow up with any of that, but my parents did, and it's certainly a lot of that stuff is going to come out through parenting, whether you're thinking about it or not, because that's the thing, right? We don't want to parent like our parents, but we do because we can't help it.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I it's just like you grow up with so much of this, and it doesn't have to just do with being Catholic. It's like in our culture.
Yeah.
It's like there's this guilt and this shame and this everything around. Almost everything.
Everything.
Feelings and how you're choosing to raise your baby, whether we can get into it with whether you breastfeed or formula feed. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. It's inside of us. It's in everything.
And you can't, social media makes it worse.
Yeah.
Because then people go on and then they see something and they're, I didn't do that, so am I a horrible mom because,
right.
I did this or that instead, or because I didn't breastfeed, then I'm this awful mom, and now I'm guilty about that, and I'm guilty because I kept breastfeeding, and then, like, every little thing that happens. But we look at things, and I see moms every day, and I see them struggling with this anxiety and this guilt over things that they absolutely cannot control at all, and over things that they want to end because they feel guilty over, even though if they end it, then that'll make them feel worse. Like, it's just this awful cycle.
Yeah. Right.
And nobody.
Yeah, like you're right that it's about things that you can't control, and things that either way, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right. It's awful. It's awful. And then you just, perseverate over it. Oh, my gosh.
Right.
This guilt.
Yeah, or things that are perfectly natural. Like, it's perfectly normal to feel anger at your baby. And it's very scary. It's like you have this baby, you're totally exhausted, you're transitioning to this new role in life. It's very scary. But it's this process that everyone who has a child goes through. And then you have feelings about it, and you get frustrated with your baby because you're tired, and the baby, whatever, all kinds of things. And then we feel these strong feelings towards our baby, which is totally normal. It's totally normal, and it's totally natural to feel these feelings. But there's so much guilt in that.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, but it's impossible not to experience it, and then you have to feel guilty on top of it.
I've had moms tell me that they feel guilty because their baby has to work towards breastfeeding.
Oh,
And wouldn't it be easier if they just didn't breastfeed? Or I feel guilty if I don't know how much the baby's taking in. So wouldn't it be just better for everybody if I just bottle fed, because it makes me feel so guilty to think the baby's not getting what they need, and then that's going to be my fault. It's just, there's so much stuff here that we carry with us. And it's awful, because it really does impact your day-to-day life and the decisions that you make. It's just, it's so stressful. And things that you just cannot control. Like, there was one, and this is, this doesn't have to do with the breastfeeding piece, because you will feel guilty about every decision that you make on your child. Like, it just happens. And
there's no way around it.
No. And there was a few years ago that I signed my son up for baseball camp for his birthday. His birthday's in July. And I signed him up for a baseball camp. And the week that they had baseball camp, it was like 100 degrees every day. Now, obviously, I could not control that, what the weather was going to be like the week that I signed him up for baseball camp. I felt so guilty every single day that I was sending my child into hell for baseball. Like, I'm like, what if he gets dehydrated? What if he, passes out? What if this happens? What if he gets heat stroke? What if that, it was awful, because I had signed him up for that. I could not control that. Do I still send him? Do I not send it? Like, it's constant. We constantly are seeing things, and then you look on social media, people, oh my God, I would never send my child in to do something like that. Like, it's just, it's awful. We have these awful, awful feelings every day about decisions that we make, and it's terrible to carry it with us. Like, what do we do about that?
Yeah, and I think that there's so much about that, because there's so much information. There's so much information out there, like you said. Like, you go on social media, on the internet, and we're just being bombarded with information all the time. Like, yelling at your kids is, bad for their brain, and I don't, all this, I don't know. I kind of run in these, like, gentle parenting circles, and it's like impossible to read anything about it without feeling a tremendous amount of guilt and pressure, because the standard is almost impossible to attain. I mean, I want to, gently parent my children, but I'm also a human being who's, like, got triggers and buttons and my own history and my own stuff, and I can't do it perfectly all the time. But yet, then I'll keep reading this stuff, and then it's just like this again, another spiral, another cycle of guilt.
Yeah. And we can't be perfect all the time. You know, we can't. And a lot of stuff, like the things that I know about parenting now, I had no idea about when I had my kids. So I look back and then I feel guilty that, well, did I totally destroy them? You know, like did I ruin them, ruin their little brains because I didn't know about any of this stuff back then? And it's a really delicate place to be, you know, and I feel like we call it mom guilt, and I don't know if partners have that. Like, I really don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's as deep.
Yeah.
I don't know if it runs as deep, because I don't think my husband gets bogged down with all of this. You know, he'll lose his temper and then he'll feel bad. And then, you know, he'll say he's sorry and then everybody moves on. I don't know if he gets kind of bogged down the way I do.
Yeah. I don't think, I have no idea about my ex-husband, to be honest with you. I probably blocked that out. But I don't think he has that same, you know, feeling that I have with the guilt. That I still feel guilty over stuff with my kids. That they still do now. Like, it doesn't go away because they reach, you know, teenage years. You still kind of, you know, are always going to question things. But I know that they're, you know, like with my husband now, like, I really don't think that he carries that kind of guilt with his kids at all, you know.
No, I think it's just, it's different for, you know, for moms and dads. And
we grew these babies. Like, they're a part of us.
Yeah, know? And whoever is like really the primary, because generally in families, whether it's moms or dads or, you know, people who identify as moms and dads, and, you know, whether whoever is really the kind of the primary person, who generally is the one who's breastfeeding or doing the feeding or staying, you know, it's typically traditionally has been a female role. I think it's that it runs deeper for you.
Yeah. So what do we do about it?
And you're there. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, and you're. Yeah. I don't know. You know, I think that guilt can sometimes be useful, just like anxiety, right? Anxiety is like a survival thing. Like, you know, we feel, you know, historically we'll feel anxiety when our safety is being threatened, and it helps us to act in a way that will, you know, keep us alive.
Right.
But then we have it. You know, we have these things when they get out of balance, and, you know, too much anxiety is just, you know, it can turn into a disorder and be extremely, people can suffer with that. And I think that with guilt can sometimes be like a good gauge, if that's a word. And that applies here. So say, you know, I don't know, my husband comes home from work and I had a stressful day and I snap at him. Right. And then I feel bad. Okay, well, that might be an indication that maybe, like, I feel bad about the way I acted, and maybe I should apologize or whatever. And, you know, that kind of guilt is like, it's there. It kind of guides you onto, you know, through your relationships and things like that. And you know, with your kids, like, if I yell at my kids and I feel guilty, I mean, you know, I think on some level, you know, I should. Right. You know, I mean, it kind of lets me know that that's a time where I need to go back to them and I need to apologize and I need to fix it. But I think just like with anxiety, I mean, it can be a thing where it just gets out of control, and then where it's just showing up everywhere. And then I think maybe that's a time where we have to, you know, you have to think about it and talk to people, and, you know, is this something that I, you know, where maybe I need to go back and fix something, or is this just, you know, a product of, you know, too much Facebook? You know, I don't, you know,
Yeah. I tend to be one of those people that kind of take what is being projected out and internalize it, you know, and somebody had told me once, and I thought, it made a lot of sense, and I try to remember it often, that nobody can make me feel guilty but me. Like, you own your feelings, like you own those feelings, and you bring that guilt on yourself in a way, so to speak.
Yeah. Right.
And I really, that's something that I need to try to tell myself every day, because it really does. Like, you can really, like you said, turn this into a disorder that is like debilitating for you, because you're just feeling awful about everything that happens around you. And that's just, we don't want that.
I think that's a perfect maybe way to look at it, is like, is this guilt originating from somewhere on the outside? Like, is somebody making me feel guilty? Because if that's the case, then that might be some guilt that's got no place. Somebody said something, or somebody posted something, or somebody's doing something that makes you feel like they are making you feel guilty.
Right.
And that's not, then maybe those aren't yours. Maybe that's not yours to own.
Right.
Or is this coming from something, within your, from within, something that you actually did that caused harm, and that, needs to be rectified somehow.
Yeah, that you're just carrying around with you. Yeah.
Which could be, oh, that's the other thing, is like, can you do something about it? Because if you can't do anything about it, then what are you going to do? And if you can do something about it, if you could, my husband comes home from work, I snap at him, I feel guilty, there's something that I can do. I can go back and I can apologize.
Right.
And then we can move on, and I can let go of that guilt.
Right.
But if there's I'm trying to think of like things that are like out of your control. I don't know. Maybe you tried, breastfeeding. Mm-hmm. You tried really hard to breastfeed. You were working with the information that you had at the time. Maybe there was a lack of support. Right. Maybe there was, whatever.
Bad information,
and it didn't work
whatever.
Out. Yeah, right. All this terrible information that ruins breastfeeding relationships all the time.
Yeah.
That is not something. And now you realize, oh, well, it didn't work out, and now you're feeling guilty about it. Well, those feelings are understandable, but there's also, like, you did your best. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right. And you could also use that, because next time you will know, and I have moms that do that all the time with me. They'll be like, last time I didn't get the help I needed. I struggled a lot. I didn't realize I could call a lactation person. I didn't realize that I got this bad information, and now I want to get all my, ducks in a row, so to speak, before this next baby is born.
Yeah.
So, like, you can absolutely use that and turn it into something positive.
Or or sharing your experience with other people. Mm-hmm. That's another way to kind of take, this stuff that makes us feel bad and turn it into something maybe more positive.
Yeah. I always get so upset when I see things that are posted and, people really take it to heart and feel really guilty about parenting styles or what they're feeding their baby or something. Like, we're all just trying to do our best here. Like, we're all just trying to get by. This is a really hard thing. We're all just trying to do our best. And I feel so sad when people are just feel inundated with guilt over whatever decision they made for their child because of something else that they read or heard from a friend. Like, oh, well, I chose to go back to work because I couldn't financially stay home, and my friend said that was selfish, and I feel really guilty about that.
Yeah.
People make their own decisions based on what's right for them. And I just feel so sad when people feel guilty about those decisions.
Yeah.
Because of what someone else says.
Right. And I think that's a good point too. A lot of that comes with that work, the stay at home or the working mom and all that. There's a lot of guilt too in parenting when any kind of focus comes on to mom. Like, maybe I have a friend who she's a dancer, and she was home with her baby for a while, and then she just wanted to go. She wanted to dance. She's like, I want to dance.
I want to dance.
And she, she got a job, and she's now working. She got back into dancing again, and there's nothing wrong with. And I don't know if she's. I don't think. Obviously, she probably feels guilty sometimes because everybody does, no matter what they do. Mm-hmm. But she works and I stay home, and like those are the things that just have worked for us. Like she wanted to do. This was something that she really wanted to do for herself, and there's absolutely nothing wrong. Not even nothing wrong. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to do that. Because there's so much of that comes guilt that comes with this too of like, I want to do something for myself. Well, you're a mom now. You can't do that. Oh my God. Come on.
You are doomed.
That's selfish. You have to sacrifice and all this. And I mean, that's just going to come. I mean, you're going to sacrifice. Like, there's nothing, you don't get to like choose that. That's going to happen. But.
Oh, yeah. That was a sacrifice the minute you peed on a stick. Like that was that's where your sacrifices started. Right. So it doesn't matter. Like there's always going to be. But you know what? Everybody sacrifices. But it doesn't mean you have to never do anything. And then we feel guilty about that. Like I feel guilty all the time when people say to me, and I hear this all the time. And I'll be honest, I really like to shop. That is, like I try to control it a little bit better now, but I do. I like to shop. I like to have clothes to wear. That comes from a whole deep-seated thing that's a whole different podcast. But it's like when I meet people that say, I never buy anything for myself. Everything I buy is for my children.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, that's my outlet, like, I don't. That's
well, why should the kids have all the things?
Right. Like sometimes it's nice to have something for you, or sometimes it's nice to be able to buy other things than just for your kid. But I think a lot of people do feel like, well, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm not working. I shouldn't be buying things for myself because now I have to sacrifice for my children. And if that's really how you feel and you're comfortable with that, then fine. But that's definitely not how everybody feels. So do what is right for you.
Right. No, I have the same thing. Like I truly believe that there was a mistake when I was born, and I was not blonde. And I was also not born in California. I was supposed to be a California blonde girl, and there was some mix-up in, whatever happens when the souls are being assigned to bodies, whatever. Mm-hmm. There was a mix-up. And now I still live in Chicago. It's really cold, but I pay to be a blonde. And I will continue to pay to be a blonde because that is what I want.
Right.
And I have to pay money, and I'm able to at this point pay that money. Obviously, if I wasn't, I know there's a lot of people who aren't able to, but I do that, and I had after my first son was born, I was just like, well, I can't do that anymore. That's not important anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. Like that's, I'm a mom now, and that's just, everything has to go to my son, and I can't, it's like putting any focus on me is just not, it's not how it is anymore. And it was like, I don't know, a year or two or whatever, when I was like, wait a minute. I'm here too, and I still want to be a blonde. Mm-hmm. And so, that's where I take the time away. And this is a different subject, but we get into this whole like self-care thing.
Yeah.
And like I will not consider going to the salon and like doing my hair and taking care of myself. I don't want to call that self-care. And this is a new thing for me. Like I just decided this like in the past couple weeks. I'm not going to call that self-care. You know why? Because we would never say a man going to the salon to get his hair done or wherever they get their hair done.
I know.
You would never call it self-care. It would just be a dude, taking care of his hygiene and like doing what he's supposed to do to take care of his body. Well, why is it different for me?
Right.
You know, that's just me taking care of me, looking the way I want to look, and like to just taking care of myself. I mean, it's not, just like a normal thing. Like I shower every day.
Right.
You know, a shower is not self-care.
It is not. No.
That is a necessity. That is a normal thing. And no, you are not off the clock. Clocking in your self-care minutes when you're in the shower.
No.
No.
Do not do that. That is not a
self-care
thing.
Self-care is very individualized. It's whatever fills your cup. It's, that's a whole different episode. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah. And I just recently as well got to the point where, because I get my hair done, like every 6 weeks probably. But I'm dark and the roots will come in and I will be gray. And it will not be pretty for anybody. So I have no problem going. And now, and the person that I go to, I love. If anybody follows me on Instagram, I just put a picture up the other day.
I saw it. That was glorious.
Wasn't it gorgeous?
Yes, it's gorgeous. It's like lavender. It's got lavender tints.
Yeah. She did amazing. My stylist is amazing. But it is a half a day to go.
Oh, I know. Me too.
It is absolutely half a day to be like, and she's just. She's just all over the place, and she's so ADD, and she's doing a zillion things at the same time, and she's showing me pictures from her last vacation, and then talking about sex, and she's just out of her mind. Her dog is there. She's a riot. It's a riot to be in there. But I will literally spend 4 hours in there getting my hair done. But she's amazing. She will do every strand. She does your eyebrows. She does everything. She's amazing. And she does a really great job, and she's thorough. So I tried to go to other places because I was always like, I got to pick up the kids, or I got to go do these visits, or I got to see these mothers, and I really can't, I know I have a hair appointment, but maybe I could just put it off, or maybe I can just switch. And it's like, you know what? And finally, even my husband was like, you know what? She does a great job. Who cares? Who cares if it takes you half your day? Who cares? And I'm finally like that. I'm finally like, you know what? I am not doing that today because I have a hair appointment that I made 6 weeks ago before this other thing came up, and I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. It's just, yeah.
I know. And isn't it funny that husbands say this too? Because there's so much, or partners in general. I mean, there's for me, so much of my guilt, a lot of my guilt, revolves around my family.
Yeah.
Like me being at the salon, my husband being here, taking care of the kids. He wasn't here all week. He doesn't know what he's doing. If it's going on past 2 hours, oh my God, who knows what's happening? And, there's been times in my parenting life that I felt guilty going to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
It got bad enough where I would literally say, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that I had to pee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? This is not, whatever. But so there's so much of the guilt is wrapped up in the family. When the family is like, Mom, get out of here. Go. It's fine. We're fine. We're going to watch baseball and we're going to throw food on the floor.
Yeah.
We feel guilty in situations where it's not being, nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody's judging us.
And it's almost like this, and now I'm kind of going back to the whole Catholic guilt thing, but it's almost like martyrish. Oh my gosh, the world cannot, the house will not stand if I'm gone getting my hair done. Everything will fall apart, and the kids will crumble, and they will cry until I pick them up, and it will not be okay. And it's actually, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine.
Right. Yeah, it's motherhood, it's not martyrhood.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Did you just make that up?
No, I have a blog post called that. Yeah, I wrote it, a year ago.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, I know. It's so true. It is so true. And a lot of times we're just doing this to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And the more you talk yourself into it, the more you feel it. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. Your brain is so strong. It's
oh my God, I know. The thoughts. Ugh.
Yeah. You could use it for good, or you could use it for evil. And I remember when I was a runner, and I used to be able to use my brain to just get me through 10, 15 miles at a time. And now it's I can also use it to make me feel like the worst person in the world. It does a really good job at either one of those things. And it's awful.
Right.
Train it to do something good.
Yeah, right. So that is, the trick to that, I guess, is to just keep talking about it. And we talked about a lot today. A lot of, like, guilt about breastfeeding, and then Diane and I apparently both spend a lot of time at the hair salon. And
yes. And we feel guilty about it, but we try not to.
We do feel guilty, but we do it anyway, and we push through it.
Yeah. We want you all to push through that. But self-care,
whatever your
things,
thing is, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And then, there's the basic things where you're taking care of your body and you're doing things that make you feel good, where it's not, that's not negotiable.
Mm-mm.
And it's not,
it's not. You have to really do those things for you. It's important. It is.
Yeah, and the guilt. I mean, like we were talking about before, like kind of gauging where that's coming from. And is it useful or is it not useful?
Right. So it's
this is like the same as we're like, you see those memes that go around on Facebook or whatever where they're like, is your comment helpful? Support it? If it doesn't meet all of this criteria, then please don't leave it.
Right.
So, I mean, kind of like putting guilt in that same thing as trying to assess whether it's useful and there's something you can do about it, or whether it's just, I don't know, coming down from society and, all of these kind of weird norms and standards that we have. And,
so really
it's not useful.
Try to figure out where it's coming from, try to figure out what's feeding that. Like we were saying that earlier, what is feeding that guilt? Is it something that you can control or something you can't control?
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, so that's our guilt. And we hope it was helpful.
Yes, and please share your experiences with us in the review section at iTunes, and you might be our review of the week. And head to badassbreastfeedingpodcast.com and join in our comment section there, where you can find sponsor links and promo codes and other episodes.
And information on contests and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah, and our contests, yeah.
Yeah, so all kinds of stuff happens on the website, so definitely check it out.
Bye.
Bye.